Have you ever wondered what it's like to live and work on a tiny metal island in the middle of the ocean, surrounded by nothing but water for miles? What's it like to have one of the most dangerous but also highest paying jobs on the planet? Hello and welcome to What Do You Actually Do? The podcast where we explore the fascinating and often misunderstood jobs people have. I'm your host, Alex, and today we're diving deep, literally, into the world of offshore oil drilling. Our guest is Jake, who has spent the last 5 years working as an oil rig worker in the Gulf of Mexico. Jake, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, Alex. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
So let's start with the basics. When you tell people at a party that you work on an oil rig, what's their reaction?
Usually shock. People either think I'm some kind of cowboy or they picture the movie Deepwater Horizon and ask if it's really that dangerous. The truth is somewhere in between. It's hard physical work, but it's also very structured and very safety-focused.
So what do you actually do day to day?
So an oil rig is like a small floating city. You've got maybe 100 to 200 people out there, and everyone has a role. I started as what's called a roustabout. It's the entry-level position, and you do a bit of everything. Cleaning, painting, loading and unloading equipment from supply boats, assisting the more specialized guys like the drillers and mechanics. It's very physical. You're on your feet for 12 hours straight.
Right, so you're the backbone keeping the whole operation running.
That's a nice way of putting it. On a bad day, you feel more like the guy who gets all the jobs nobody else wants. But yeah, without roustabouts, nothing moves.
And what does the career ladder look like? Where can you go from roustabout?
There's actually a really clear path, which is one of the things I like about the industry. From roustabout, you move up to roughneck, which means you're working directly on the drill floor, handling the pipes and the drilling equipment. That's where it gets exciting. After that, you can become an assistant driller and then a driller, who's the person actually controlling the machinery that drills the well. Above that, you've got the tool pusher, who oversees the whole drilling crew. And at the top, you've got the OIM, the offshore installation manager, who is basically the captain of the ship. Then there are all the specialist roles too. Mechanics, electricians, welders, crane operators, medics. It's a whole community.
So there's real progression. It's not just a dead-end gig.
Not at all. If you work hard and keep learning, you can move up pretty fast. Some guys go from roustabout to driller in 4 or 5 years.
So how did you end up out there? Was this a childhood dream?
Definitely not. I was working construction back home, barely scraping by. A buddy of mine had gone offshore and told me the money was incredible. He wasn't wrong. Even the entry-level pay was way more than I was making. I didn't have any special qualifications, but they hire people and train you. So I thought, why not?
And what did that training look like? Because I imagine they don't just hand you a hard hat and say, good luck.
No. The training is intense. And honestly, it was one of the wildest experiences of my life. Before you ever set foot on a rig, you have to complete a course called BOSIET, Basic Offshore Safety Induction and Emergency Training. It's a few days long, and they put you through everything.
Like what?
So the big one is the helicopter underwater escape. They strap you into this mock helicopter cabin, drop you into a swimming pool, and then flip the whole thing upside down. You're underwater, strapped in the dark, and you have to unbuckle yourself, find the window, push it out, and swim to the surface. And they do it multiple times with blackout goggles on to simulate night conditions.
Wait, upside down, underwater, in the dark?
In the dark? The first time, I genuinely thought, what have I signed up for?
Your brain is screaming at you to panic, but the whole point is to teach you to stay calm and follow the procedure. Because if a real helicopter goes down in the ocean, that's exactly what you'd have to do.
That is terrifying. What else?
There's a lifeboat freefall drop. They put you in this enclosed lifeboat that's mounted high up on a rig, and they just release it. It drops nose first into the water from about 5 or 6 stories up. You're strapped in, and your stomach just drops. It hits the water with this enormous impact, and then the boat pops back up to the surface. The whole thing takes maybe 4 seconds, but it feels like an eternity.
5 stories? That's like jumping off a building.
It is, and you feel every bit of it. A few guys in my training group went a bit green after that one. But again, it's all about being prepared. If something goes seriously wrong on a rig, that lifeboat is your way out, and you need to know what it feels like so you don't freeze up.
I have to say, I thought we'd be talking about safety manuals and PowerPoints. This is more like military training.
It kind of is. They also cover firefighting, first aid, sea survival, how to use a life raft, how to signal for rescue, all of that. By the end of it, I felt like I could survive anything. And then I got on the helicopter to my first rig and thought, well, at least I know what to do if this thing goes down.
So, walk us through a typical day on the rig. What time does your alarm go off?
We work in rotations, 14 days on the rig and 14 days off at home. On the rig, I work a 12-hour shift, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So I'm up at 5, head to the galley for breakfast, and I should say the food is seriously good. We have proper chefs cooking for us. Full breakfast spread, eggs however you want them, bacon, pancakes, the works.
That's unexpected. I pictured canned beans and sardines.
The opposite. The companies know that food is one of the biggest morale boosters when you're stuck in the middle of nowhere. And since you're burning thousands of calories a day, nobody's counting. You eat as much as you want.
I'm already considering a career change. What happens after breakfast?
Every day starts with a safety meeting. Every single day. The whole crew goes over what tasks are happening that day, what the risks are, what the weather's doing. Then I get my assignments and head out. It's 12 hours of physical work. Could be anything from hauling equipment to chipping rust to assisting with pipe operations on the drill floor.
And when your shift is over at 6 p.m.?
Dinner first. Again, great food. After that, you've got your downtime. There's usually a gym, a TV room with movies, satellite internet so you can video call your family. Some guys play cards, read, work out. Honestly, most people are so tired they just eat and go to bed. You need the rest because you're doing the same thing again in 10 hours.
Let's talk about the tough stuff. What's the hardest part of the job?
There are 2 sides to it. Physically, it's relentless. You're working in extreme conditions. The Gulf gets incredibly hot and humid in summer. Some days it feels like you're breathing soup. And then there's the weather in general. One day it's perfectly calm. The next you've got massive swells and the whole rig is swaying. You're still working through all of it, unless it gets genuinely dangerous.
And the mental side?
That's actually harder, being away from your family for 2 straight weeks, over and over. You miss birthdays, you miss anniversaries. Last year, I missed my daughter's first school play, and she had a little speaking part. My wife recorded it, and I watched it on my phone in my bunk that night. That was a tough one.
That's heartbreaking. How do you cope with that?
You remind yourself why you're doing it. The money means my family has a good life. My kids have everything they need. And the 14 days off are real days off. I'm not just there in the evenings after work. I'm fully present all day for 2 weeks straight. A lot of dads with normal jobs don't get that.
So it's a trade-off.
What about the flip side? What's been the best or most surprising thing about the job?
The camaraderie, without question. You're out there with the same crew for weeks at a time. You eat together, work together, live together. You have to trust each other with your lives, literally. If I'm working near heavy machinery, I need to know the guy next to me has my back, and that builds these incredibly strong bonds. These guys become like a second family. I didn't expect that at all.
That makes sense. You're all in it together. Now, I have to ask, do you have a good story for us? Something funny or memorable?
Oh man, okay, so on my second rotation ever, I was still the new guy and I was trying so hard to impress everyone. One of the more senior guys, Big Tony, everyone calls him Big Tony, he told me to go to the storeroom and ask the supply coordinator for a long wait.
A long wait?
Yeah, a long wait. I didn't think anything of it. I went to the storeroom, asked the coordinator, and he just said, sure, hang on a minute. So I stood there, and I waited, and waited. 10 minutes went by, 20 minutes. I'm standing there like an idiot, and the coordinator's just doing his work, ignoring me. After about half an hour, I finally said, excuse me, did you find that long wait? And he just looked at me and said, you've been waiting 30 minutes, mate? That's a pretty long wait.
No.
The whole crew was in on it. I walked back to the drill floor and every single one of them was crying with laughter. Big Tony could barely breathe. I got absolutely roasted for weeks. That's how I learned that rig humor is a specific kind of humor.
That is brilliant. Every workplace has that classic prank for the new guy.
Absolutely. And now I'm the one sending rookies to get a bucket of steam or a left-handed wrench. The cycle continues.
Have you got a more serious, memorable moment too? Something that stuck with you?
Yeah, actually. One time, a huge pod of dolphins, must have been 100 of them, started following a supply boat coming in. They were all jumping out of the water, riding the wake. The whole crew just stopped what they were doing and watched for about 10 minutes. Nobody said a word. It was one of those moments where you think, we're out here in their world. You see incredible things, whales, sea turtles, the most insane sunsets. It makes the hard days worth it.
A little moment of magic in the middle of a tough job. Finally, Jake, if someone's listening right now thinking, you know what, maybe I could do that, what would you tell them?
3 things. First, be honest with yourself about whether you can handle it, physically and mentally. You need to be fit, and you need to be okay with being away from home for long stretches. Not everyone can do that, and there's no shame in it. Second, get your certifications. The BOSIET training I mentioned is the minimum. Some companies also want you to have a medical certificate and specific safety tickets. Do your research and get those done before you apply. It shows you're serious. And third, be persistent. Your first application probably won't land you a job. Keep trying. Network. Talk to people in the industry. Once you get your foot in the door and people see you've got a strong work ethic, the doors start opening.
That's really solid advice. Jake, this has been absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing your world with us.
My pleasure, Alex. It's been fun.
That was Jake, an oil rig worker from the Gulf of Mexico. Now for our English learning listeners, let's go over some useful vocabulary from our conversation today. Offshore. This means located at sea, away from land. An offshore oil rig is one that's out in the ocean, not on dry ground. Second is rotation. A rotation is a repeating cycle of work followed by time off. Jake's rotation is 14 days on the rig, 14 days at home. Third, grueling. If something is grueling, it means it's extremely tiring and physically demanding. 12 hours of hard labor in the heat? That's grueling. Fourth, camaraderie. This is a feeling of trust and friendship among people who spend a lot of time together. Jake said the camaraderie with his crew is one of the best parts of the job. And finally, a new one, rookie. A rookie is someone who is new to a job or activity. Jake was the rookie when Big Tony sent him off for that long wait. And that's it for today's episode of What Do You Actually Do? A huge thank you to our guest, Jake. I hope you found his story as fascinating as I did. Join us next time when we'll be flying to France to talk to a chef working in a high-end restaurant in Paris. What's it really like behind the scenes of fine dining? We'll find out. Until then, take care.